The movie begins with a warning: aliens exist somewhere out in space, and one day they will come to Earth. When they finally appear, it turns out humans were unprepared. The first alien, called a kaiju, emerges from a portal deep in the Pacific Ocean, where two tectonic plates meet. As it steps onto Earth, it destroys cities and kills many people. The military manages to kill this kaiju, but the threat doesn't end there. A few months later, another kaiju appears, and the attacks continue. It becomes clear that these creatures will not stop on their own. Realizing the danger, countries around the world unite to fight back. Humans decide they need machines just as powerful as the kaiju to defend themselves. This leads to the creation of giant robots, called Jaegers, but they are too big and complex for a single pilot to control safely. The strain on one person's mind and body is too great. To solve this, the program is updated so that two pilots can operate each Jaeger together. Their success depends entirely on how well they can coordinate with each other. It was like combining two minds to control one, and humans succeeded completely. From that point on, whenever a kaiju appeared, the giant robots, called Jaegers, would face it and eliminate it. Over time, kaiju attacks became manageable, almost routine, and humanity grew confident. They believed that any kaiju emerging from the ocean could now be defeated. But one day, they detect a new kaiju, and this one is far more dangerous than any before. At this critical moment, twin brothers step in, Yancey and Raleigh. They are assigned to operate a Jaeger designed to take down this powerful kaiju. Sitting in the cockpit, their minds are linked so closely that if the robot is harmed, they feel it too. Together, they pilot the massive machine into the ocean, where the kaiju has appeared. Their Jaeger is so huge it can't sink, allowing them to approach the creature safely. Along the way, they even rescue a stranded ship before finally launching their attack on the kaiju. The twins had defeated kaiju before, but this new one was far stronger. Despite its power, they managed to hit it with an electric shock using their Jaeger. The control room warns them that the kaiju is still alive and they need to retreat, but the brothers continue fighting. The kaiju damages their robot's left arm and strikes the head, where both brothers are seated. Tragically, Yancey is killed when the kaiju drags him out, leaving Raleigh devastated. Filled with grief, Raleigh uses the full power of the robot to finally kill the kaiju, but the loss of his brother leaves him heartbroken. Wounded and exhausted, he collapses on the shore. Time passes, and the leaders of the world, who fund the Jaeger program, become worried. They argue that humanity can't keep winning against the kaiju because the aliens are learning to counter human strategies. Now even more advanced kaiju begin to appear on Earth. With the new, fourth generation of kaiju emerging, world leaders decide to shut down the program. They instruct Marshall, the commander who created the Jaeger program, that he can bring all remaining robots to the last station in Hong Kong, but funding will be stopped until a coastal defense wall is built. At the shore, a massive coastal wall is being built to prevent kaiju from reaching the land. But Marshall, the commander behind the Jaeger program, isn't ready to give up. He doesn't want the program to end, so he starts forming a new crew. He approaches Raleigh, hoping to bring him back, but Raleigh has quit after losing his brother. The trauma of Yancey's death still haunts him. Marshall tells Raleigh that he needs him now more than ever. He has repaired old Jaegers, including the Mark III that Raleigh once piloted, but he needs a skilled pilot to operate it. At first, Raleigh refuses, but Marshall reminds him that the fate of the world is at stake. Realizing the gravity of the situation, Raleigh agrees and travels to Hong Kong with Marshall. The new team is working in secret, now with only 4 Jaegers. Marshall explains the plan: they will attack the kaiju at the part of the ocean where they emerge. Raleigh protests, saying they've already fought too much, but Marshall insists that he has a strategy and that Raleigh must be ready. Meanwhile, Marshall's foster daughter, Mako, is introduced. She is the program's director and asks to be Raleigh's co-pilot so they can fight the kaiju together, linked mentally through the Jaeger. but Marshall forbids her from joining. Mako's parents were killed by kaiju, and Marshall worries that the trauma would prevent her from controlling a Jaeger properly. Despite this, it's time to choose Raleigh's co-pilot. Several fighters take turns facing him in combat trials, but Raleigh defeats them all. Finally, Mako steps in. She is just as skilled as Raleigh, and it's decided that she will be his partner. They both enter the Jaeger for a trial run, linking their minds to control the robot together. But as the connection begins, Raleigh is haunted by memories of his brother's death, causing him to disconnect from the robot. At the same time, Mako remembers the moment her parents were killed, losing herself in grief. Raleigh witnesses her memories and tries to understand her, but in the robot, Mako accidentally activates its weapon. Panic spreads as people rush to get out of the way, but the electric connection is cut just in time, deactivating the robot and preventing disaster. As a result, Marshall removes Mako from her role as co-pilot. Meanwhile, a scientist named Newton is introduced. He links his brain with a kaiju's brain, similar to how two pilots link their minds to control a Jaeger, setting the stage for new developments. Newton links his mind with a kaiju's brain and gains a glimpse of the place where all kaiju emerge. He also sees the aliens who created the kaiju. Marshall approaches him, and Newton explains that the kaiju appearing now are meant to clean the Earth's pollution, but the next generation will target humans directly. These aliens had visited Earth during the time of the dinosaurs, but the climate wasn't right for them, so they left. Now, with a weakened ozone layer and increased pollution, Earth is perfect for them to harvest its resources before moving on to other planets. Marshall orders Newton to link with a kaiju brain again to learn more, but Newton refuses, explaining that the necessary kaiju brain is already dead. At that moment, Marshall learns that two more kaiju have surfaced from the Pacific Ocean. He immediately sends the Jaegers to attack, but tells Raleigh to stay behind since he has no co-pilot. Deep in the ocean, a Jaeger engages in battle with one of the kaiju, setting the stage for the next clash. The kaiju is extremely powerful, completely destroying the first robot that confronts it. When the second Jaeger arrives, the kaiju releases a strange liquid onto it, creating an electric surge that damages the robot. With both robots out of action, a third Jaeger moves in to fight. The kaiju releases chemicals and electromagnetic waves, which not only stop the robots but also shut down the entire control department, cutting off all connections. Raleigh tells Marshall they need to intervene personally because the older Jaeger's walking system can't handle the fight, unlike the newer, digital robots. Marshall finally agrees and prepares Mako to be Raleigh's co-pilot. Together, they board their Jaeger and reach the disabled robot. Working as a team, they attack the kaiju and manage to destroy it. Meanwhile, another kaiju heads toward the city, and people begin to panic and flee. At the same time, Newton meets a man who trades in kaiju organs. Newton wants the brain of this kaiju to collect more information and study it. Everyone is now aware that another kaiju is approaching the city, raising the stakes even higher. The man warns Newton that linking with a kaiju's brain isn't one-sided, the kaiju can sense that information is being gathered. Now this kaiju is heading straight for them, intending to kill anyone in its path. As it approaches the city, Raleigh and Mako arrive in their Jaeger to confront it. The battle is intense, and the kaiju lifts their robot into the air, carrying them high above the city. Before it can take them beyond the atmosphere, they manage to sever one of its arms. They start falling, but by activating the robot's boosters, they land safely on the ground. Meanwhile, Newton and the organ trader arrive at the site where the kaiju fell. Newton tries to retrieve the kaiju's brain, but it's completely deactivated after the creature's destruction. Suddenly, another alien emerges from the kaiju's body and attacks. It kills Newton and swallows the trader, who thought the kaiju was already dead. At the same time, Marshall prepares to complete his mission with the two remaining Jaegers. He plans to destroy the portal, the crack from which the kaiju emerge, by planting a bomb, aiming to end the threat once and for all. At this point, Marshall has to take a co-pilot's seat because the original co-pilot is badly injured. Marshall's Jaeger and Raleigh's robot move toward the crack, the portal from which the kaiju emerge. Meanwhile, Newton links his brain with a kaiju and realizes something critical: the portal can only be entered by the kaiju, meaning Marshall's plan might fail. As the two robots arrive at the portal, more kaiju are already there. Newton warns Marshall that they cannot enter the portal without a kaiju. Suddenly, another kaiju, the most dangerous one yet, emerges. It attacks Raleigh and Mako's Jaeger, breaking one of their robot's arms, though they manage to stab it with their sword. At the same time, another powerful kaiju attacks Marshall's robot and destroys it. The two kaiju team up and move toward Marshall's position. He reminds Raleigh and Mako of their mission and, as the kaiju approach, detonates the bomb installed in his robot. Meanwhile, Raleigh and Mako carry the dead kaiju they had killed earlier to a ditch, but a severely injured kaiju suddenly appears in their path. In the explosion, only one kaiju is killed, while the other remains alive. Raleigh and Mako's Jaeger is badly damaged, but they push forward with all their strength, carrying the kaiju toward the portal, the gateway to another world. A fierce battle continues as they fight their way to the portal. Mako's oxygen level drops dangerously low, so Raleigh activates his capsule to lift them upward. Raleigh reaches the other world and triggers the bomb. The aliens witness it, but they don't understand what's happening. Just before the explosion, he activates the capsule, and then a massive blast destroys the kaiju, the remaining aliens, and all portals connecting Earth to other worlds. In the end, Raleigh and Mako survive, and the movie closes with them safe, having saved the planet.